I'm logged into TSAM here already. This is our test platform, and I'm logged in as the core officer at the UMA core as my just kind of example here. And I'm going to click and go into the Angel Tree module. I'll come back to what we see here, but what I want to take you to first is actually the first screen that you will encounter when you log in the first time to Angel Tree. These are our campaign configuration screens. When we say campaign, we really mean a season, a period of time where you take applications for whatever programs you have going on, but you take applications during that campaign, and then you may close this campaign, and at a different time of year, you might open a different campaign and take applications under that campaign. So when we say campaign, that's kind of what we mean. This screen here, the general campaign settings, is actually the first one that you'll encounter when you log in for the first time. What you'll see here is a campaign name. It will try to construct it for you. It will give you the year, 2020, your location name, UMA core in this case, and then it appends Angel Tree to it. If you don't call your program Angel Tree, you want to call it something else, you're welcome to adjust that. In this case, I adjusted that to seasonal assistance instead of Angel Tree. And here we need to give some just overall campaign settings, and this is what actually will go through and create the campaign for you. So the first few things we need to apply here are the max angel age. So when we talk about angels, we're talking about the individual people, typically children or seniors, that get served by this Christmas program. And so we're looking for the max angel age, so the oldest that these children can be. In this case, we have it set to 12. And then they have to be 12 as of a certain date. Sometimes that test date will be Christmas Day, or they have to be 12 by December 31st, or they have to be 12 by the first day we do applications, which is October 1st. So you can set that test date to be whatever you need it to be, along with the angel age. Then it asks, do we allow senior angels? If we allow seniors in our program, then we'll say yes. Of course, if not, we'll just say no. If we say yes, then we need to give a minimum age for seniors. So in this case, we have it set to 65, but you can set that to whatever you want. If you only serve seniors over the age of 75, you would put 75. Or you might say no minimum senior age, meaning basically it's going to be open to anyone. Here we have the final gift return date. So if you have donors who are purchasing gifts for these angels and returning them to any number of your facilities, this is the final date that they will be allowed to return them. This information is used when we communicate with the donor to say, okay, thanks for adopting, make sure you return your gifts by this date. So that's that final cutoff date. And then lastly here, and we'll talk about this a little more later, so I won't go too far into it, but these are the templates that are available. If you plan to print paper angel tags, so the kind of paper tags that hang on a tree at the mall or wherever you have physical angel trees, if you plan to do that, this is where you would select the different types of templates that we have, and we'll talk more about how to choose these templates and what paper stock you need and all of that in a little bit. And then the last setting there, do you want to print angel names, first names on the tags? Sometimes people like to have the angel names on there. Sometimes they don't, just for I guess privacy concerns or whatever. For whatever reason, if you don't want to print the angels' first names, you can just set that to no. Okay, so when you save changes on that screen, that actually creates and unlocks the rest of your campaign admin. So that's the first thing you see when you log in. And now we are here where we can configure the rest of our campaign. So really briefly, I'm just going to go back to the home screen, just give you like a very high level overview of all the different places you can go. When you first log in, of course, once your campaign has been created, after that, every time you log in, you'll be brought to this home page, which is your dashboard. Your dashboard gives you kind of a live look at the statistics of your campaign. So you can see our goal is to serve 500 families, and so far we only have 5. And as that grows, it'll complete the circle and we'll get to 500. And then you can see how many angels we have processed in the system. Right now we only have 3, and you can see what statuses they are based on the color code here. So all that'll make a lot more sense when we get into the stats there. But one good thing is to just realize that this is all live data. This is all as things are happening, as adoptions are happening, as applications are being input. All of this is updating immediately. So if you have, a commanding officer who wants to just look in every couple of days and see what's going on, they can log in here and get a view of what's going on at that location. If you happen to be in a larger area, so like a regional command or area command, you can use this drop down here. We'll have the different corps listed underneath, so you could actually drill down and say, okay, let me see this one particular corps, or you can see the overall status of all of the corps underneath that area. So that's just kind of a live dashboard look at what's going on. There are several menu options here. Applicants is where we find information about the families. Angels is where we find information about individual angels, so children or seniors who have been designated as angels and approved into the system. That's where we find information about them. Appointments, which we'll cover soon, and I'll come back to admin, and really wanted to make sure to point out this resources tab here. The one on the far right. There are several tools here. So we have a pretty big library of FAQ that you can search and find help for general topics, from campaign setup to printing angel tags and adopting angels and how do I approve applications. All of that can be found in there. So if there's anything I kind of gloss over a little too much today and you want to dig into the details of, you can find almost all of that in the FAQ section. So definitely, make sure to go there when you have questions. Additionally, we have some training videos. The training videos are kind of divided up into segments. This is how you do user admin. This is how you configure your campaign. This is how the online applications configurations work, all of that. So when we update those, and we will be updating those more, so make sure to check out the training video. It's actually a YouTube channel that has our training videos on there. So if I don't cover anything or go too quickly through anything, you want to take a look at those and dig in further, just know that that's there. And then if you can't find the answers that you need and you really do need to reach out for some support, you can always email us. You can click the link here and it will create an email for you to send to us at tsamsupport@dataparadigm.com, and we are happy to help you troubleshoot anything that comes up for you. Okay, so just want to make sure to point out that resources tab. This is a lot of information to cover, even in the kind of long time that we have together. So just in case, I just want you to know that those resources are available to you. Okay, so going back under the admin tab here, there are several things we can do, and we're going to talk about all of them. But the first place I want to go is under admin. I want to go to campaign. This is where we administer our campaign. This is where we set all of our settings that is going to configure our Angel Tree or seasonal campaign to make it specific for our location. So we all know Christmas looks different at every single Salvation Army location across the nation. There are different programs in place, there are different rules, there are different communities and different things that you do. So we've really invested in making this a very configurable system, meaning there are settings that you can apply that will help you make this unique and custom to your own location. And even from year to year, as you adopt new practices or you open new core or anything like that, you can configure year to year. And this is where you come to do that. So we've already managed our general settings here under this general tab. And now what I want to do is go step by step through the rest of these screens. This really is the most intense part of the training and the setup. It will probably take you a while to get this configured the first time. But again, all the tools and resources are there under the resources tab. If you get stuck, you should be able to find all the info you need to help through each of these different steps. But I want to make sure to cover them all so we know what things are critical for being able to actually get going, start taking applications. And then we'll talk about some other things that are kind of optional along the way. So after the general section, I come to sites. So sites is what we call basically all of the physical addresses or institutions where things are happening related to your campaign. So for example, I have here the Yuma Corps, right? That's a place where Christmas stuff is happening. They're doing taking intake applications. This is where you can drop off your gifts. This is where we're doing distribution at, maybe in our gym, where people are going to come and pick up their gifts on a certain date. So I add all of the sites that are related to any of those activities. So for example, I have the Yuma shopping mall where I might have a physical angel tree where donors can go adopt angels. So that's what we call an adoption site. So for Yuma shopping mall, I've checked the box as an adoption site. And it might also be where I can drop gifts off. So that's a drop off site. And then I might have something like our Christmas warehouse, where this is where we're going to be doing our main distribution. So these are all the types of sites you would want to add here. So, typically they're, physical buildings and places where things related to your campaign are happening. If you need to create a new site, which you will, you'll click here on create new site, enter all of the information, the address and the name of the site. I'm going to open one of these that's already existing here just to give you an idea. So you'll save that, and it actually does a Google lookup to see exactly where this location is, and you can drag this little pin here, like if the entrance is actually on the other side of this thing, you can drag it over here and save that, just to make sure that all the information that goes to your applicants and donors, that they know exactly where things are. That can be helpful. So if you need to add sites, definitely do that. And then make sure to check for each site which type of site it is, what activities are happening here for this campaign. Okay, so intake, adoption, drop off, and distribution. And we'll talk about what all of those mean as we go. One question that we get asked often is, hey, we need to get this set up and we need to start taking applications, but we don't actually know where our Christmas warehouse is going to be this year. We don't have a contract signed yet. We don't have the address. That's okay. You want to go ahead and add the site like I did here for Christmas warehouse, but you can see in the address, I just put TBD. So to be determined at a later date, and you can come back and add that address once you know what it is, but we need to have the concept of the Christmas warehouse as a distribution site in the system for some of the other functions to work. So you want to go ahead and enter it and just come back and give the address later. A little tip that I'll give is that you do want to make sure that you come back and add that address at least 24 hours before the first scheduled distribution appointment or gift pickup appointment. Reason being, the system will send automatic reminders to your clients to say, hey, you remember you're supposed to pick up your gifts tomorrow at this time, and that will send 24 hours before the appointment. And in that, it has the address of the distribution site. So if it still says TBD, they're not going to know exactly where to go. So make sure that you have that put in there 24 hours before your first distribution appointment. Otherwise, it's okay to go ahead and set it up as TBD. That's just a little tip because I get that question often. Okay, so moving on. Now that we've added all of our sites, now we need to configure a whole bunch of details around these different types of sites. So the first one is our intake sites. So Yuma Core is set up as our intake site. So an intake site is defined as a location you will use to take applications. Now, typically that would have meant the place where you're doing interviews, right? The place where someone's walking in the door and you're doing an application interview and entering information in the system. We're going to talk about the whole online component of this in a minute, and that kind of muddies the waters a little bit because if those applications are happening online, it's not really at this address, right? So it gets a little confusing. But what you also want to remember is even though they're doing applications online, you're saying we want those applications to be tied to this location. So in this case, Yuma Core. To expand on that a little further, if you happen to be in an area command, regional command situation where you have multiple core under one larger campaign, you would have each of those core listed as intake sites so that as people apply online or in person, we can say, okay, this application belongs to this core and this application belongs to this other core. So the concept of intake sites, although it used to be always a physical location where physical activities happen, now it might be a little more loose because it's online activity. But you still want to make sure that any place that you want to tie applications to is set up as an intake site. Hopefully that made sense. That gets a little hard to explain sometimes. So what we want to do here is configure all of our settings specific to this intake site, which is the Yuma core. Now I kind of alluded to this, and I'm going to expand a little further, that now, starting this year, brand new, DPI has implemented some what we call contactless features that are trying to help this, since this Christmas season is going to be so much different than in the past, and you don't necessarily want to do those face-to-face interviews and have rooms full of people who are applying. We've opened up the ability to do online applications. So now it used to be you just do, there's one thing called intake, but now there's actually many different forms of intake. So some of these settings are going to apply and some not, depending on how you are going to do intake. So you have to ask yourself those questions. Are we wanting to do face-to-face interviews? Are we wanting to schedule and then do phone interviews? Are we wanting to do online applications only, or some mixture of the two? So depending on your answer to that question, that's going to tell us which of these settings you need to configure. So I'm going to start here with appointments. So if you are doing an actual interview style process, it doesn't have to be face-to-face. This could be face-to-face, on the phone. You could set up Zoom calls or come up with any number of creative solutions to do an interview. But the concept is the same in that I am asking the client questions, the client is answering those questions, and I am completing their application here on the AngelTree TSAM platform. So that's what I'm calling an interview style intake. So if you're doing that at all and you want to schedule those out into appointments, then we need to configure your appointment schedule, your intake appointment schedule. So that's what this first section here is about. So if I want to edit that, I'm always looking for this edit pencil icon. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Alrighty, so I come here and this is where I can configure this schedule. This looks a little intimidating, but it's super simple once you get the hang of it. So what we're doing here is we're saying these are the open appointment slots. These are the times and dates that we will be taking AngelTree or Christmas appointments. And I want to go ahead and set a schedule so that we can then add people to these appointment schedule, right? So what I would do here, the first thing I would do is say, okay, how many appointments am I going to be taking total? So I might say, okay, we want to serve 500 angels. And so I put 500 or 500 families, excuse me. So I put 500 families as my goal. And then I'm going to say, okay, we're only doing applications for 1 week. And we want to do them, and each application is going to have like a 20-minute block. So I'm going to choose my segment time to be 20 minutes. I'm going to confirm. So that's going to wipe out my original schedule. Then we'll rebuild it together. So I'm going to say, okay, I have 20-minute blocks. So you can see it reconfigured these time slots here. So 8 a.m. to 8:20 to 8:40 to 9 o'clock, and so on and so on. So now I have a little slot for each 20-minute window. And then I want to say for each 20-minute window, we're going to take 2 applicants because we have 2 caseworkers on Monday, right? So starting at 9 a.m., from 9 a.m. to 9:20, I'm going to take 2 applications. So I put my appointment or applications per segment to 2, and then I click that block. So now within this block, 9 a.m. to 9:20 on Monday, 9/7, we are taking 2 applicants. Cool. Then I say, okay, actually, we're going to do that all day, every 20 minutes, all day until 5 o'clock. So I can just click and drag down and it will put that 2 in every cell. But then I might say, oh, actually, we need to have a lunch break here. So I'm going to put a 0 in the applications per segment. And I'm going to say, I'm going to block out from 12 to 1. So I'm going to update those to 0. So now we only have applications from 9 to 12 and then from 1 to 5. Okay, and then maybe on Tuesday, we can take 4 applications every 20 minutes because I have 4 caseworkers on Tuesdays. So I could fill the same block, just update it to 4, and then click the sections that I want to add, and so on and so on. And so you can see here that the current count, I know I have 210 slots, and I know I need 500. So that allows me to just kind of know, okay, yeah, we need to keep scheduling, and then maybe we'll do that all the way from Monday to Friday. And then we have a catch-up day on Saturday where we go, we go all day kind of thing, trying to get to whatever the goal is of how many appointments you expect to have. Okay, so this is now telling me that these green slots and the numbers within them indicate how many open appointment slots are available for this intake site, the Yuma Core, for this date and time. Okay, we'll talk about how to actually schedule those appointments a little further on, but this is just the configuration of this section here. This text editor here, this little block with some text in it, this gives you the opportunity to customize the email communications that go out to your clients, when they schedule an appointment or when you schedule an appointment for them. So once we schedule an appointment, it will send an automatic confirmation email to that person to say, okay, your appointment's scheduled for this date and time and this address, and it will give them whatever text you put in here. So in this case, I just put some text that says, please bring the following documentation when you arrive for your interview appointment, and please park in the rear of the building and enter in this door. Just anything that they might need to know leading up to their appointment. And that will be included in the appointment confirmation, as well as the appointment reminder, which will go to them automatically 24 hours before their scheduled appointment. Okay, so I'm going to save and close that. And then we will move on. Oh, before I do, similarly to that little text box that let us configure what our email was going to say, we can also include, by clicking that little paperclip icon, we can include documents that will get attached as part of that email. So if you wanted to put a flyer in there, or a flyer for a core program that's coming up, or you wanted to add a map to your office or instructions of any kind, you could also attach a document, and that will be delivered with the email as well. Okay, so that's where you would do that. So that's all if you are doing interview style appointments. Then you'll need to have a schedule put in place so that you can actually create appointments to have those interviews. Okay. Outside of that, you might, or actually apart from that, or in conjunction with that, you might decide that you want to allow online applications. Online applications meaning the applicants can actually go online from home, fill out the application, add any documentation that you request for, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and actually submit their applications from home without having to do any sort of interview process. Okay, so if you're wanting to do that, and that again, that's a new feature that we've added this year to try and help make this a little more contactless, then you'll need to be worried about this second section here, this online section. So I'm going to click the edit pencil under online. And this first section here, online appointment requests. So there are kind of many different ways to schedule appointments, and I've seen some really creative things and some different ways that people do this. It could be that as your clients come through the door, your normal social service clients, they say, oh, I also want to schedule an appointment for Angel Tree, and you can do it right there on the spot in person. I've also seen where they'll set up call centers or a phone bank where the public will be given a number where they can call in. They'll ask a few kind of pre-screening questions and then create the appointment that way. And then something that we've added recently is the ability to allow the public to directly request appointments from you. So you would be able to send out a link that says, okay, if you want an appointment for Angel Tree, we're not like guaranteeing them a spot or anything, but if you want an appointment, go here and fill this out. So they go to a specific link, they put in their zip code, and if their zip code matches one of your allowed zip codes, which we'll talk about in a second, and you have online appointment requests set to open, you have to have that open, then they will be able to submit an appointment request to you. Then on your own time, not necessarily have to have live phone bank support and not necessarily have to have people sitting in the building, but on your own time, you can review those appointment requests and schedule them as necessary with the people who want them or who you've approved to have an appointment. So that's online appointment requests. So that's allowing the public to online tell you that they want your help, but not taking it all the way to the point where they can just go on and fill out their own application. That's kind of an in-between step. So if you wanted to do that, you'd have to set this to open, and then you'd set the max number to the number of appointment requests you want to allow from your online users. And then, probably more interestingly, is the online application settings. So this is what allows the public to actually go online and complete their entire application, uploading all the documents you required of them and all of that online without them having to have an interview. So if you want to do that, you'll have to set online applications to open. If it's closed, nobody can get through. That's even if they have an invitation code, even if anything, they're not going to get through. Then you want to, but if it's open, you want to set your max number of online appointments that the system will allow. And then as long as that's open, then people will be able to apply. Once it reaches the max number, it won't let anybody else apply. And that's just a way to, it's kind of a shut off valve. Once a link gets out there in the public, as you can imagine, people are going to be sharing it with everybody, and I think you can end up with a flood of applications, more than you're able to serve. So it's good to go ahead and put a max number there of the number that you're able to help. So I would definitely do that. And then this last setting here is an invitation code required. So invitation codes can be generated within the system. You can generate as many invitation codes as you need, and they are tied to each individual intake site. So again, if you're in an area that has more than one core participating, you can create invitation codes that are specific to each of those core. And if invitation code is set to required, that means, yes, people can apply online, but it's not just the general public. It's only people who you have provided this invitation code. Those can be delivered in any number of ways. You can send those out to clients who you already have contact with. You can, I've seen, or at least heard talk, because nobody's used this yet this year, but give like a chunk of codes to your high school guidance counselor, and then they can distribute those to the families that they feel need services or need to apply. So those invitation codes, they're up to you how you distribute them, but you get to decide here if they're required or not. So if they are required, obviously you have to have a valid code in order to complete an application. If you say no, if you say it's not required, you can still use invitation codes to invite certain people. A great example of this is if you have core members who actually kind of live outside your normal service areas, but you want those families to also be able to apply for Angel Tree, you can give them an invitation code. And even though it's not required, what that allows them to do is still apply, even though they're outside of your normal service area. So those can still be useful, even if you don't require them, they can still be useful to you in that way. It kind of guarantees that person an application spot. Now, when I say your service area, what I'm really referring to is this section down here called serviceable zip codes. So this allows you to enter a list of zip codes in your area that are under your service area. So the people with these zip codes will be able to apply online and will be able to request appointments online. So you want to make sure that you get all of your zip codes added. If someone goes to the website to apply and enters a zip code that's not listed here or in any open campaign, they'll just receive a message that says, sorry, we're not, this site is not currently serving this zip code. Contact your local Salvation Army kind of thing. So you want to make sure you have all of those listed there. You can type in a number like that. I can just hit enter, hit tab, and it will add them there. You could also copy a list if you have a list in Excel or spreadsheet or something like that. You can copy that and paste it in here, and that will work as well if you have a large list to add. So you just want to make sure that all of your serviceable zip codes are there for each of the intake sites that you have. In this case, we only have the one, Yuma Core, but if you have multiples, you want to make sure that you apply all of these settings to each one separately. And that's great because it allows you some flexibility. You can have two different intake sites, but only one of them is accepting online applications, and the other one, you have to have a invitation code, right? Something like that. So that can be really useful, but you do want to make sure that you apply those settings for each intake site that you have. Okay, then the last section over here, approved distribution sites. So in a core like this, in my Yuma campaign, we do our intake and we do our distribution at the same place. We do it all at the core. So that's why I've added here as an approved distribution site, Yuma core. However, when you start to get into a little bit more complex of a campaign, and this does happen, where you have multiple intake sites who maybe share one centralized warehouse, or you have multiple distribution sites like around the city to make it easy for people to pick up their gifts. So one core might distribute to 3 or 4 different places to make it easier for their families to come pick gifts up. So each of those distribution sites would have been added. Let's step back a second. Would have been added under this sites tab and would have been selected as a distribution site. And then here is where I can link those things up. So I can say applications or applicants that come from the Yuma core, they are allowed to have distribution appointments at these distribution sites, right? I might say you could choose one or the other, or you could just choose that one, or you could just choose Yuma. So that's us linking these two concepts together, the intake site and the distribution site. A lot of times, for the majority of you, it's just going to be the same thing across the board, and that's fine. However, if you do have a more complex situation where you have multiple intakes or multiple distributions, and you need to be able to kind of create a matrix out of that, this is what allows you to do that. And it just makes sure that your applicants who apply at one place, that you know that their distribution appointments are going to be scheduled at this corresponding place. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, there's some additional resources out there for that if that's a little confusing and you want to dig into that a little more. So intake settings for your intake sites are super important. This is one of those things that has to kind of be done before you can really launch your campaign. These next 2 tabs here, adoption and drop off, these are not quite as important. You don't have to have these to launch a campaign, because these are things that kind of happen a little bit further down the timeline, down the Christmas timeline. We're talking like in October or maybe November. But this is where you can, for each of your adoption sites, in this case we have the Yuma Shopping Mall. This is a place where I'm going to have a physical angel tree with angel tags hanging on it, and my donors are going to come here and pick out an angel, and then they're going to go shop for them, and they're going to drop their gifts back off. That's this type of location. So what I need to do here is just add a schedule for when that angel tree is going to be there. So I just come here, and it's a lot like the schedule we just did, but this time I'll say the start date is on, I'm going to say November 15th. So starting on November 15th, you'll see a tree at this location, and it'll be there through December 12th. And instead of setting actual appointment schedules like that, basically we're just saying when is it open and when is it closed. So if I say open, so let's say it's going to be open on Sunday, there's going to be somebody there doing adoptions on Sundays, I might say from 10 to 2. I can just select open and drag that section. If I say, oh no, we're not doing anything on Sunday, I could just select closed and then just kind of highlight back over that section. So now that's closed. So everything's showing in green. These are the dates and times that this adoption site is open, and you can kind of see it summarized down here. This is our weekly schedule. Mondays from 8 to 7, Tuesdays from 9 to 7, Saturdays from 8 to 8. And you can set that however you want. And that's really shows up for the donors. There's a website they can go to see, hey, where can I adopt in this area? And this is the schedule that they'll see. They say, oh, I can go to Yuma Shopping Mall between this time and this time on this date. So that's what this schedule does. It's not necessary it's not necessary at all. If you don't end up using this feature, that's totally fine. It's not going to stop anything, and it's definitely not required before you can launch your campaign like some of these other things are. So exactly the same, but with the drop-off locations, drop-off being places where donors can drop gifts off. It might be at the same place where you have the trees. So that's why I have Yuma Shopping Mall here, or they can drop them off directly at the court, and I can set a different schedule for each of those. So I just want to make sure that I go in and set a schedule for each of those. Okay. Then back to another one that's super important is this distribution tab. You can see the screen is kind of yelling at me saying, hey, you're missing something here, because it's super important that these details are here. So it's going to keep yelling at me until I fill it out. So here we have two potential distribution locations, Yuma Core and Christmas Warehouse. Again, these are here because back here on the Sites tab, we selected those as our distribution locations. So this is what's making them show up here. So if you have a site that's missing, you need to go back to the Sites tab, make sure you check off distribution. So for each distribution site, we need to add several details. So I'm going to click my edit pencil, my trusty edit pencil. And this is where I get to the place where I can add all of those settings. So starting with the schedule. So just like we did the intake schedule, that was the schedule for intake appointments. So interviews to take applications. This is the schedule for distribution. This is the day or days or weeks, depending on how long you do a distribution period over. This is appointments where people can come pick up their gifts. So it's a totally different schedule, but it works the same way. So I can choose a segment time. Let's go with hour. So I'm going to update my segment time to an hour. And then I'm going to say, this is all happening the week of December 7th. Let's say I'm going to do it all in one day on Saturday the 12th. So Saturday the 12th is my distribution day. And every hour, I want to see 75 families come through here. So I'm change my distributions per segment to 75, and I'm going to highlight those sections there. So we're doing this all day until everybody comes and picks up their gifts, 75 per hour. Again, if I need to enter a break for an hour lunch, I just update that to 0 and click this one back, and it goes back to 0. So that's me setting my distribution schedule, and you can spread that over several weeks. If I want to jump to the next week, I use this little calendar widget down here at the bottom to switch between weeks. So schedule, that's great. And then just like on our intake schedule appointments, we are going to send confirmation and reminder emails about these appointments to the clients directly. So we want to make sure that those emails contain all of the information that we want them to have. So it already has in there the date and time of their appointment, the location and address of their appointment. It includes their family code, and we'll talk about family codes, and all of the pertinent information. But if you want to include some additional custom information, you can do that here in this text box here, just like we did on our intake one. And you can also add documents and uploads using that paperclip icon on the other page back here. So that's how you can customize that. Now, distribution has another really important thing that we need to pay attention to, which is the construction of these what we call distribution codes or family codes. Every family that applies, that gets accepted, is going to be assigned a code. And that code is made up of a few different things. First of all, it's made up of what we call a distribution code. I think it's between 2 and 5 letter code that you can create, and it can be whatever you want. I suggest that it's unique to your location. In this case, we're doing Yuma, so I put YU, something that kind of signifies this is my area. Reason being, if you have multiple distribution sites, you'll use different codes for each one. And that means if you find a loose angel tag or somebody calls you up and says, and you're trying to find them, and you say, well, what's your code? And they say, well, why you something? Then you'll know they belong to Yuma. And then even if you have like a core in a neighboring county who, they're not part of your campaign, but sometimes people get confused and they call the wrong location and they call you up and say, yeah, this is my code. It starts with, FC. And you're like, nope, that's not us. That's somebody else. So those codes are just helpful in quickly identifying which distribution location it's from. So come up with something good and add, I think it's between 2 and 5 letters that you can add there. So I've got YU. And then my family code start and end range. So this is a range of numbers that I'm going to designate for family applications for this distribution site. So I've got numbers 1 through 1,000. So what that means is when my first applicant comes through the system and I assign them a distribution appointment at this Yuma Core distribution site, they are going to receive the family code YU1. Then each of their angels, we append a letter to it so we know which angel within the family you are. So if they have 3 kids, their angels will be YU1A, YU1B, YU1C. And then our second family that comes in is going to go right in order. It's going to get YU2, and all the kids are YU2A, YU2B, and so on and so on. So this is what the system uses to automatically construct those codes. And there's all kinds of protections in place that we're making sure we're not duplicating codes. You can't reuse codes. Um, we're keeping them in order so we don't have big gaps in codes, things like that. So you want to make sure you have this family range entered here. Now, one trick or one thing to be aware of is that you can't duplicate those ranges or that letter code between your multiple distribution sites. They have to be unique. So while this distribution site is YU1 to 1000, I might have my Christmas warehouse, I might call, I don't know, CW, and they start at 1001 to 2000. So the number ranges can't cross. So that's this family code, and I'll take a second to explain. There you see also here special care code and kind of the difference between family and special care. So family applications are really 99% of what you're going to do. They're your normal family applications. Even if it's a single person, a single senior who's signing up, that still falls in the family category. I guess another way to look at it is like a household application. And that's just kind of your normal structure. Special care is a little bit different, and this might not be something you ever use, but since it's here, I just want to make sure you know what it is. Behind that is these are groups of people who you're grouping under one application. So a great example is you're taking 100 seniors from this senior living facility, and you're going to put them all in as angels. Well, instead of needing to complete a full application for each one of those 100 people, we're going to do one application that's for Sunset Point Living Facility, whatever, and then we're going to enter each of the 100 angels as angels rather than as families. Hopefully that makes sense, because typically that means their distribution is going to happen all together. Their application can all be entered all together, and it really helps group those families, or not families. It groups those angels into one application rather than having 100 family applications. So that's kind of what special care is used for. There are a few different use cases like that, but to be honest, most of you probably won't use it, but just know that the option's there. And if you are going to be accepting special care applications, you need to have a separate number range for those. And a lot of times people will like to put those as like a totally different number range, like they start at like 5,000, because you want those to be separate because the distribution's different, and it's all different. So that's special care codes. If you're not using special care, you can totally leave those blank. That's fine. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. And of course, for each distribution site, I would need to do that same exercise. So for Christmas warehouse, the one that's yelling at me right here saying there's stuff missing, I would need to go into there and create my schedule and give my distribution code and do all of those same things before I'm able to take applications or schedule distribution appointments at that location. So that is an important thing you want to make sure you get done. Okay, so that kind of takes care of sites. Honestly, those 3 probably sites, intake, and distribution are probably the most intense sections you need to complete as far as configuration. The rest of it's pretty easy, but I'll walk you through what the rest of these settings are, because they are important. But if you get those 3 down, you're more than halfway there. Okay, so the next tab here says application. So because there are any number of different ways you can collect data from people, there are different theories, right? We want to collect a ton of information from every family because we want to use this for ongoing casework, or we want to just make this as easy as possible and collect the bare minimum information we need to just do angel tree. You can configure your application to your taste. So that's what we're going to do here. You'll see that there are 3 options here. So there are basically 3 types of applications, and you might not need to configure each one of them, but you want to at least consider each of them. Do I need to configure this or not? So the family applicant intake, it says this application for regular families or seniors is entered manually by intake staff and TSAM. So this is if you are doing interview appointments, right? And you are going to be filling out applications right here on your own, or intake staff at your location. That is, you will be completing the family application. If you're doing special care, we talked about that. So these are special group registrations. If you're going to be using those, you want to make sure that you configure that one. And then the last one here, Angel Tree Public. This is if you are accepting online applications, this is where you configure what that application is going to look like, what those screens are going to look like for your applicants online. So I'm going to choose this one. The function's the same, so I'm not going to go through each. It's pretty much exactly the same. But you'll want to make sure to go through each one of them and just consider if you need to tweak anything there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Angel Tree Public and click Next. And this is going to take me through a few different steps. These steps mimic the steps of the application that the person when the person applies online, they'll go through these similar steps. And what I'm doing here is configuring for my location, right, for my campaign, which of these questions are we going to ask our applicants to fill out? And on top of that, which ones of them are required? And which ones am I just going to ask about? So there are a few that you can't remove. Like we have to get their first name, last name, date of birth, gender, and email. So for the online application, we do require email. If you're doing it manually via interview style, you don't have to have an email. But if they're applying online, because we need to communicate with them via email, we need to collect that from them. So those few things are required by the system. But then on top of that, you can say, okay, yes, we want their gender, and we're going to require that. And that means that when I get to that application online, it's going to be required. But I might say we don't actually want to collect their ethnicity, so I'm going to uncheck that, and it means we're not going to ask that question at all. So I don't care about some of these. And yes, we want their address, and yes, that's required. And if they have a referral source they want to tell us, we'll ask that, but it's not required. Okay, so this is how we are configuring or customizing that application. So I'm going to click Next. The next step relates to the household members. So these are people within the household, besides the applicant, who are not qualified angels. It's like everybody else that lives in the house. So, the grandmas, the uncle, the older siblings, people who live in the house besides the angels. You don't have to include this step. If you don't want it, you can just uncheck the top box there, and then we just won't ask these questions at all. Or if you do want to ask those questions, you can say, okay, we want the first name and last name, but we don't necessarily want some of this other stuff, or we'll require just a first name and an age. Okay, so you can configure those. Similarly, this next one is the budget worksheet. So this is where we ask the client information about their income and expenses. So you can choose what you want to ask here, if anything. And then the last step, probably most importantly, is where we collect information about the angel and their needs and wishes and clothing sizes and everything to do with angels. And this is all of the information that's going to end up later presented to a donor so that they can choose which angel they want to adopt and know what they want for Christmas. That's where we're collecting this information. So we do require the angel's first name. We don't require the last name. Sometimes people don't want to have that. As little information as you can have about people's kids, the better. So sometimes people don't even ask that, but you might. We definitely have to have their date of birth and gender because we do a lot of filtering, sorting, reporting based on that. And then the rest of these, you can decide which questions you want to ask specific to their clothing type, different types of clothing. Do you want their coat size? Whichever ones of these you want, and you can require whichever ones you want as well. All right, so I'm going to save that. So my public online application is now configured. I would want to do the same thing for the family applicant intake probably, and special care if you're going to use it as well. So you go through that exact same process. So you want to make sure you have done that before you open this up for everybody to start inputting applications. You want to make sure you've taken care of that. Okay, the next one here, and kind of following on that, is about documents. documents being the documents that you want the applicant, if they're applying online, that you want them to provide to you. So because they're doing this online, they're not bringing copies of papers to you like they normally would during an interview. You need a way to verify who they are and if they qualify. And that looks different for everybody. Sometimes you might not even care. You don't even want their documentation. Sometimes you want identification. Sometimes you want birth certificates. You can configure this to prompt the applicant for whatever documentation you want to get from them. And if it's listed here, it's going to require that they add that documentation before they can submit their application to you. Okay, so here I have this configured. I want to collect identification from the applicant. I want to collect a proof of residency from the applicant, and I also want to collect a birth certificate for each angel. And I could configure this however I want. I might say I want to get information for every household member and the applicant. And so by checking those boxes, I could do that. If there's a different type of document that I want to add, I could say add a required document. You come down to the bottom, add a new document, and I might say I also want to collect their water bill, because that's what you want to use as your proof of residency. So give me a copy. Oh, why it's adding these? Give me a copy of your water bill for every applicant, and maybe we want that instead of proof of residency. So I might configure it that way. So hopefully that makes sense. You can add as many types of documents as you want to collect from them, and this is what the system will use to know what documents to prompt them for when they go to fill out the application. Okay. I'm going to call this our last configuration step here for now, because we'll come back to the online tab. And this last one here we call seasonal programs. This is, very often you're doing Angel Tree and you're doing this children's gift thing, but also you might have other programs that are kind of run simultaneously and that you want to be able to add families to. So in this case, we have a Thanksgiving food box program and a holiday utility assistance. You can add additional programs here. So just click add program, and I can add something else. And I'll show you what this kind of nets out to later, but it allows me to add each family to whichever of these programs I want to add them to. And then later I can pull reports to say, okay, here's all the families that are receiving holiday utility assistance, or here's all the families that are receiving a Thanksgiving food box kind of thing. So you can add as many of those kind of additional seasonal programs as you want, and I'll show you how we handle those. So congratulations, that is the majority of our campaign setup. That, like I said, that is kind of the most intense part, and if you can make it through that, the rest of this is a breeze. So now what I want to do is make sure that we cover, okay, now what actually happens? Once I have everything configured, how do applicants get into this system, and what do I do with them after that? So first things first, if you are doing appointments, meaning if you're doing interview style appointments where you need to have these people come to the office at a certain date and time, or you're going to call them at a certain date and time to do this appointment, you need to actually schedule those appointments. So to do that, I'm going to go under appointments, intake appointments. You can see I already have a couple scheduled. And I'm going to click new applicant intake appointment. So based on the intake schedule that we set up in our campaign admin, these are the times that are available for people to actually have an appointment to do their interview. So and what this does is this allows you to now offload this to, a receptionist, or you have some seasonal volunteers or somebody who's going to help you take appointments. And basically they can't mess it up now. They can only schedule the appointments that you set up that are allowed. So they can come here to this list. Like I said, this might be people sitting at a phone bank. People will call in and say, okay, I need an appointment. I might run down a script and ask them a few prerequisite questions. And if we're ready to schedule an appointment for that person, I can choose from this list. You can see the kind of color coding means, the appointment slots are filling up for that section. But in fact, let me cancel. I'm going to add it to the same section here. So I'm going to say, okay, this person called me up and they want to have an appointment on September 10th at 1:20 p.m. Or you could set a policy at your specific location. You could say, okay, no, we don't do that. We schedule appointments in order, right? So instead of this, um, we would say you have to start at this one and fill all this up before you move to the next one and fill all these up before you move to the next one. So that's just like a policy that you can set with whoever's taking these appointments at your location. But I'm going to go ahead and add one. Okay, we're going to add an appointment for this person. We're going to take their email address, their phone numbers, so we can contact them back later if anything changes, if they happen to have a referring agency. And then a preferred language, and that's just so that, you know, if I know I have a whole bunch of Spanish speaker appointments coming up tomorrow, I might need to make sure I have a translator on hand, that kind of thing. Just helpful info for you. So this is saying an appointment has been scheduled on Thursday, September 10th at 1:20 p.m. for Alexander Barboa, and this is an email, a confirmation email has been sent to him, and it will send him a reminder as well, 24 hours before that appointment. So if I want to go ahead and, you know, maybe I'm on, like I said, it's a phone bank and I pick up the next call and I want to schedule the next one, I can just stay here and schedule calls all day long. If I need to skip to the next week, maybe we're also taking appointments the next week, I can use the calendar widget. But in this case, we're doing all our appointments in this one really hectic week, it looks like. And then when I'm done, I can say return to appointment list. And here I can see a list of all of my appointments. So you can use the filters to search for a specific person. So if this person calls me back up and says, hey, I can't make that appointment, I need to change it, you could do that. You could search them for them by name, click here, and I can update, delete, or edit this this appointment. Another great thing is that you can use this to pull a list of appointments for that day. So I might say, pull me all of the appointments that are happening on the 10th. So it'll pull me this list. I say, okay, order them, you know, by the time that they're coming in, and then export this list to Excel. And now I can have somebody sitting at the front door that has a list of all of the appointments that are supposed to be coming in today, and they can check you off the list as you come in and say, do you really have an appointment today? Okay, yes, you do. So lots of cool little features like that. So that's intake appointments. Now, let's say we've scheduled some appointments, and we're still talking about the in-person interviews, or not in person, but interview style applications at this point. Now I've scheduled this appointment, and this person is now, let's say they've called in, or they're sitting here and they're actually ready for their interview, and I want to enter them into the system. What I would do is go under applicants to new applicant. I would choose which type of application this is, family or special care. Again, you're 99% going to be family. And then you would choose which intake site does this person belong to. Of course, for our campaign that we set up, there's just one, Yuma Core, that's fine. If there happens to be multiple core within your campaign or different intake sites, you would see them listed there, and you just choose which one this is for. Click next, and it's going to take me through a series of steps to complete this application. I'm just, in the interest of time, I'm going to go grab one that's already open, or excuse me, already completed, so that I can just show you what that would look like. So here I'm going to grab this one here for Angelica Elias. This one is already completed, but this is kind of the overview of what the application looks like once it's done, and I'll come back to this. But if you look in the upper right corner, there's a pencil. Remember, pencils mean edit. We love to edit things. So when I'm completing a brand new application, I put in the person's name, and it brings me to this screen. Obviously, it's blank, and I'm going to fill it out. But in the interest of time, I just want to show you one that's already filled out. So, of course, the fields that are listed here are the ones that we have set in the campaign admin. So these are the ones that I said for family intake applications. We require this and we ask this. That's what's building this application right here. Technically, this application screen could be much, much longer if you ask every single possible question. They'll step through here, and when I say they, this is your staff at your office interviewing someone, entering this on their behalf. Okay, what's your name? Angelica. Okay, type it in. What's your last name? Okay, type it in. That's kind of what's happening here. So you complete the first step, and of course it'll just take you step by step through here. This says, are there household members who are not qualified angels? So in your interview process, okay, who all lives in your household? Okay, those ones are angels. So who else lives there? And we want to collect some information about them. So if I say, yes, there are household members, I'll click yes, and then it'll give me a space to enter that information. So I'll enter that in, and I'll say it's a daughter, and she's 21, and I'll save it. And then it's, oh, I didn't mean to save and close. So sorry. I meant to click next. So sorry. But the great thing is, and I'll use this as a learning tool, if you do that, if you save and close, or you might have to do that on purpose, they might not have everything they need, or you need to break away for some reason, you need to come back and finish this application later, you can do that, kind of like I just did. And I can always jump back right into where I was. So coming back in here to edit this, this is telling me you've successfully added these household members, so I have 3 of them now. Are there any more? If I say yes, I'll fill that out, and it'll just basically just keep taking me through this loop, right? Until I've added every single household member, until I say no. Are there any more? No. And then I'll click next, and that's when it'll actually take me to the next step. So the budget worksheet, if we've configured to ask them these information about income and expenses, those would be listed here. And then the angel information. So very similar to how the household members works. It says you've already added this angel, but are there more angels in your household? And I say yes, and then it's going to present me the fields to add the next angel. So I'll fill all that out. I'll click next, and then it'll say, okay, are there any more angels? And I'll go through the loop, through the loop, through the loop until I get to no, there are no more angels. So I'm going to go ahead and say no. I'm going to click next. Here, remember we talked about requiring documents for applicants online. That was part of our campaign configuration. We said we're going to require your water bill and an identification and something else, birth certificates for the angels. So that is specific to the online application because they're not in person. They can't show you any of these documents. They have to submit them online. Here, it's a little bit different because I'm doing this interview. They might just show me a copy of their ID, and I don't need to keep a copy of it. I just need to have looked at it. So, okay, that's fine. You're good. Or I might want to scan it and upload a copy of it to this application so that we keep that copy. So if you're wanting to do that and your office is set up in such a way that you have a scanner there with this computer that you're doing input on, you could scan that ID, choose a file, click choose file, select what it is you're going to upload. So this is another ID. You can click to upload, and then you can have as many documents here related to this family as you need to. So you can upload those that documentation here. But again, only if you need it, and only if you're really keeping it for a purpose. I wouldn't have you jump through all that hassle if you didn't need to. If you don't need to keep that documentation, you can totally skip this step. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click next. And then the last step here, which is going to be the same no matter whether they applied in person or online, you're going to have to do this step. And this is to schedule their distribution appointment. So again, based on the campaign settings where we said, okay, we're doing all our distribution on one day on December 12th. Here you can see that schedule. And I'm going to say, okay, this person is, I'm going to give them the first slot here. Again, people have preferences. You know, you might want to just ask the client, okay, what's most convenient for you, and give them that slot. Or you might say, no, we schedule, start from the top and work our way down so that, you know, we can finish early if we need to, kind of thing, or if we can. So it's up to you kind of what order you want to schedule these in, but you'll click the slot that you want to assign the appointment for. So you're scheduling distribution for this person at UMaCore on December 12th, 2020 at 8 a.m. Are you sure you want to do it? I'm going to say, yep, schedule it. And because this is the first family that we've input for this distribution site, it went ahead and gave the family code YU1, and then this angel, Felicity, got YU1A. So this family happens to only have one angel, so YU1A. If Felicity had a sibling, they would be YU1B, and so on and so on. So scheduling the distribution appointment is actually what applies the family code. So you have to go through that step. So I'm going to say save or close, and it's going to bring me back to this kind of application view. This we'll go through this in a little bit when we do the online application. We'll come back to this. So that is how we would do an interview style appointment. Yeah, an interview style application where I'm filling it out because I'm interviewing you. However that looks, and whatever kind of creative solutions you guys come up with, I'm sure there'll be some great ones out there. That's how you would do that. Now, flipping it to the other side where we're doing online applications. Of course, this is actually all done by the client themselves at home on their own personal device. They can use their PC, kind of like I'm doing here, or it might be on their mobile-enabled devices, their iPads, their cell phones, whatever the case may be. So this is actually them doing it at home, but I just want you to see what this looks like. So all online applications start at the same place, www.saangeltree.org. Oh my gosh, I can't spell. saangeltree.org. So all of them start here. And this is where they come to begin their application. So www.saangeltree.org. Now I'm going to actually go to our test version of this just so I can put in some test dummy data here so you can see what this looks like. But that's the URL, www.saangeltree.org. So you'll direct your clients there, and they will land on this page where they can read some information about what Angel Tree is and kind of what it means and how we protect some of their data, and some helpful hints about what devices they can use, this kind of thing. Up at the top, you'll notice that there's a language option. So if they want to read this application in Spanish, they can do that. So I'll switch to Spanish, and the whole application will be in Spanish. Now, having said that, we'll go ahead and say, although the application will read in Spanish, there are some text fields, especially where we ask for the angel's needs or wishes. If those get entered in Spanish, you're going to have to do some translating after the fact. So that's kind of hard to do anything about. We want to be able to collect this information from Spanish speakers. It is possible that they could enter that information in Spanish. So that's something you'll have to think about. But anyway, we get asked that question a lot about if it's available in Spanish. So yes, the answer is yes. So they'll scroll down here to the bottom, and it will ask me, do I have an invitation code? If I say yes, I can enter my code. Remember that you have already generated those codes. In fact, let me step back here and show you how you do that, because I don't think I did. So under admin, I go to invitation codes. I can click generate new codes. I'll tell it what number of codes I want to create and for which intake site I want to generate them. So remember, each site can have its own set of codes. So I've already generated 10 of them here. In fact, a couple of them are already used, and you can see who used these codes. So the system generates these codes, and it makes sure that there are no duplicate codes, and it knows that these codes are tied to your core. And then it will be up to you to distribute these codes in whatever way you see fit. You can export this to Excel. So for example, I might use this filter, and I might say, I want to see all the codes that have not been used yet, and I want to export this to Excel. It's going to download an Excel file that will give me a list of those codes that you can use to distribute to whomever you want to use those codes. So once the applicant gets here, if they have one of those codes, they would enter it here along with their zip code. As long as the invitation code is valid, it's going to let them apply. So this is great because you might have core members maybe who don't live inside your normal service area, but you want to give them an invitation code to be able to apply for under your core's Angel Tree program. And so that's a great use of invitation codes. So they can put their invite code, and even though their zip code doesn't match your service area, it will still let them through. If I say no, I don't have an invitation code, then I will enter my zip code. Let me add one in here for Yuma 365. I'll say go. Of course, if I entered a zip code that is in nobody's service area, it would just give me a polite message that says the site isn't currently serving this zip code. Please contact your local Salvation Army. So once we're in here, the system knows that because of that zip code, the system knows this application belongs to UMACOR. So that's how we kind of get around the fact that it's one place. Everybody goes to www.saangeltree.org, but it's that zip code that's telling us which of UCOR it belongs to. So that's important. So I enter a good zip code and I go through, and now it's going to take me step by step through this application. Okay, so we'll put a birth date. Language preference, of course, again, all of this is driven by our campaign settings. So whatever we put for our public campaign settings, that's what it is. We do require the email address here, so they wouldn't be able to continue without that email address. And then a phone number because we're asking for that. Again, just taking them step by step. I'll click next. And then it's going to want some information about my household members. So here it says members of your household ages 0 to 12 or 65 plus can qualify as angels to receive Christmas gifts. So remember, that is part of our general campaign setup where we said kids must be 12 by a certain date, or they could be 65 and over if we're allowing for seniors. So that's all driven from your campaign settings. So are there other household members besides yourself who are not qualified angels? I'll say yes, there are. And looks like we're asking for their age. I'll click next. Say okay. You've successfully added Sandra Smith, your wife. Is there anybody else you want to add? If I say yes, it's gonna keep taking me through that loop until I have added everybody I need to add. Until I say no, there's nobody else. So they can add as many of those as necessary. I'll go ahead and click next. So this is our budget section where we're asking information about income and expenses. It looks like our monthly expenses. It looks like the earned income is the only thing that's required there. Okay, I'll click next. Again, all driven by your settings for your campaign. And then we get to the angel info. Okay, members of your household ages 0 to 12 or 65 plus can qualify as angels to receive Christmas gifts. Provide information about the angels in your home. So we'll go ahead and do that. If I put an age that is over the limit, so at 35, this angel is older than 12, but not yet 65. So it's kind of telling you, hey, this angel doesn't meet the criteria here. So we'll say 2019. I hope somebody out there still likes Power Rangers. And then we'll say what clothing type, and again, all of this is based on what campaign settings you said you wanted for each. Oh, this is like a 1-year-old that wants a skateboard. That doesn't really make any sense, but you get the idea. I'm gonna save that angel info. And then it's the same thing. It's going to keep putting me through this loop until I say, no, there are no more angels in my household. So I can add as many of these angels as I need to. But I'll go ahead and say no and click next. Then it's going to ask me to read and consent to some language here. I'm going to select in this box and I can sign. I'm signing with my mouse. That my screen happens to be a touch screen, so I could also sign that way. You can see if I'm using a mobile device, I can I can sign with my finger. So it's pretty simple, but they add their signature. And this allows us to capture their agreement and the date and time which they agreed, and also the IP address they're coming from, which you can see on the other end. So just in case there's ever any question about did they provide this information, we're tracking that. So go ahead and click next, and then I get to the next section here, and actually something happens right there between those two steps. And I don't know that it's super important for you to know exactly what's happening behind the scenes, but I want to make sure that you understand what's happening on your end of things. So you are over here on TSAM, right? You're looking at your applicants under applicant records, and you're saying, okay, here's all the people have applied, and here's this Houston guy, and he's under his status says draft. So what that means is that he has actually filled out an application. We went through the entire application, but he hasn't submitted his documentation yet. So he's still in draft mode. So at this point, you're just kind of waiting to see, is Houston going to actually submit all of his documentation to me? At this point, we also sent him an email that says, thanks for starting your application, but there's still some documentation you need to add. Here's a link to get to this upload section that I'm looking at right here. And what that does is if he happens to be sitting at work and he's completing this on his work computer but doesn't have that documentation handy, he doesn't have his kid's birth certificate sitting right there and he has to do that later when he gets home, he can use that link in the email to come back here and do that later. So whether he does it now or he comes back later, he's here on this upload section. And so what we're saying is for the primary applicant, we need your identification and a water bill, and then for each angel, we need a birth certificate. So the system's smart enough to know these are the things that are required. So it's going to be looking for at least one document in each of those sections before they're able to submit this to you. So let's see, this is supposed to be my water bill. So yeah, that'll work. If I tried to submit now, it would say you need your angel birth certificates. And in fact, it knows that if you have two angels, it knows to be expecting two birth certificates there. So it won't let you submit until you have both of them. So right now, if I tried to submit, it would say, no, you have some missing documentation. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll say that's the angel's birth certificate. So I'm going to click continue. And this is just a confirmation screen to say, here's all the things you've uploaded. Does this look right? Do you need to add anything else? If you do, you can go back. Otherwise, we can go ahead and say submit. So we submit and it says, thank you for submitting. We'll notify you via email if and when your Angel Tree application is approved. So now I'm back over here on the TSAM side. If I refresh this screen, you'll see that Houston updated from draft to pending. So the pending status is what gives you your clue that, okay, now this is ready for us to review and ready to move forward. So you can ignore the draft ones, and in fact, you can filter them out. You can use this filter up here to say, okay, I only want to see the ones in a status of pending. So here's a list of applications that have been submitted that I need to go through today. So what I would do is I would open that up. Oh, did I click it? Yep. I would open that up and I would review all of their information. So here's all the applicants' information. Here's the angel info, so on and so on. Here are their required documents. If I want to view their identification to check it against their name and address, I can do that. It'll pull up the document for me to view. Probably it was a picture that they took, so it would probably be a picture that they've attached there. So you can view all of that. You can see their signature and when they signed it and all that good stuff. And then really the last thing you need to do, I mean, you can contact them, you can ask them, additional questions at this point. You can do whatever you need to do. But at some point you're ready to actually include this in the program. You're going to click schedule applicant pickup. And this is going to allow me to this allows me to assign the distribution appointment. So I'll click whatever's the next available one. I'll say, okay, go. And because this is now the fourth family that's been submitted under this distribution, this Angel Carter got the designation of YU, meaning Yuma, number 4, their family number 4, and letter A because he's the first angel. Okay, so now that they have a family code, which you can kind of see it here, you can see that they have a family code and an appointment scheduled. That means they're ready to move on through the system. Remember we added those seasonal programs earlier? So those seasonal programs kind of show up here to say, okay, now that I'm reviewing this case, is this family also going to be receiving a food basket for Thanksgiving? If I say yes, are they also going to get holiday utility assistance? Maybe not. They don't qualify for that. So I'll just add them to this seasonal program here. And then the last thing for me to do is submit. And now this application is submitted. So that status is changing. First it was a draft, then it was pending. Now it is submitted, meaning somebody's reviewed it. We've assigned the distribution, appointments is ready to go. And then the last couple of steps it goes through is an approval process. Now that approval process is going to look different for every location because sometimes it's just one super duper core officer who's doing everything from start to finish. So they're the one that submits it and they're also the one that approves it. And then they're also the one that admin approves it. And then you can do that all at once. So if I happen to be that person, I can click here, supervisor approval, admin approval, bam, bam, bam. I can do it all at once. There are also some other tools you can use if you have a whole bunch of intake staff or you have a whole bunch of people reviewing applications, they will get them to the submitted status. And then if you are the person who approves them all before they actually get totally in, you would go to approval family, and this will pull you a list. Depending on the statuses, this will pull you a list of all of the families that need to be approved, and you can actually kind of at once, you can click this checkbox at the top here, and it will select all of the families, and you can click these buttons down here to supervisor approve or admin approve. The ultimate approval that everything needs is the admin approval. Once it has the admin approval, now the angels are in the system, ready to be printed, allocated, whatever you're going to do with them next. So like I said, that whole approval process, it can be 3 people or 1 person. But just know that the ultimate goal is that all of these applications need to get to a status of approved admin. So that's approvals. So now if I go here under angels to angel records, this is where I can see a list of all of my angels under this program. Right now I have 4, and you can see their names, you can see some info about them. If you want to see their details, like their wish list and all of that stuff, there's another report that's called the Angel Edit List, where you can go here. And so here are my same 4 angels, but I see their needs, their wishes, their clothing types. And this is really helpful just from a screening or kind of editing perspective, where like if I said show me only the girls ages this to this, all the girls under 2 years, I don't know if there'll be any. Oh good, there's one. And then I look down this row and I say, wait, why do I have a pant size of 14 for a 2-year-old? That doesn't make sense. Something must be wrong here. So you can click on that angel to edit any of their information if they're not already adopted. Anyway, so this list is a little different. That's under Angel Edit List, and that's really helpful as you are reviewing and before you start printing tags and adopting angels. It helps you kind of get a list of things like that. It's also helpful if somebody calls you up and or a donor is like, oh, I want to adopt an angel, but I really want to adopt someone who wants a bicycle. So I could search the wish for a bike and see if I have any kids who wished for a bike, and it's just helpful in that way. To look kids up in a different way. But typically you're going to be under angel records. This is your main report for angels. And from here you can see the info about them. You can see their current status. So you see I have angels who are adopted, angels who are allocated, all the way up to admin approved, what core they're from, who they're allocated to, which we'll talk about, and if they've already been adopted, even to the point where I can see who adopted them, which donor belongs to which angel. So Sally adopted this angel Felicity. And I can click on Sally's name and go get some more information about, open a new tab, and go get some more information about who that donor was if I needed to contact them for whatever reason. So that's cool. A few other things you can do here. There are filters. These filters are going to be very, very useful to you. So you're going to be filtering by angel statuses. You're going to be filtering by their allocations, by what intake site they're from, by their gender, by their age. You're going to be using this a lot. So make sure you know about those filters. And I'll talk really quickly about, I know we're a little bit running out of time here, but I want to make sure I cover our last few things. And that is the printing of angel tags. So if you are doing printed in-person printed tags, paper tags on real Christmas trees where real donors are walking up and adopting angels, and you need to actually print physical paper angel tags. If you need to do that, you need to know how to do that. You need to know how to print tags. So not everybody's going to be doing that anymore, I think. I think places we're moving a little bit more into online adoption or to only corporate adoptions, things like this. But if you are doing that normal style or kind of older traditional style of paper angel tags, you need to know how to do that. So what you would do is you'd come here to your angel report list and you would filter by any number of things. You might say, okay, I want to print all the tags for the angels that are allocated to the Church of Yuma, for example. And I want to print those tags. So you'll filter this list down to whatever you want. You'll check the box to the far right at the top, and it'll select all of these angels. If you want to uncheck one of the angels, no, I don't want to print that one, or yes, I do. And then you would print this button or click this button here that says print angel tags. We recommend that you do this in batches of 100 or less. So if you need to print 200 angels, I would do that in 2 batches, only because you don't want to bog down your system and then it kind of time out on you and you have to start over. It's just a little smoother if you try to do it in batches of 100. So I'll do that. I'll say I want to print these angels. Are you sure? Yes, this is who it's going to print. And what this is going to do is create a PDF document for me that I just closed. Sorry, let me grab it from my download file. That is going to open or download a document for me, a PDF document that is pre-formatted to fit on, I don't know what I did there. I think I might have, let me try that again. Print angel tags. I clicked it too soon or something. So it's downloading the tag, and what it's going to do is print a PDF file with those angels in a pre-formatted template that matches the angel tag template you selected in your campaign admin. So typically, these templates are designed to match cardstock pre-printed angel tree tags that you can get from trade. I know there are a lot of different versions of them, but what you're looking for typically are the ones that are legal size paper. They have 3 tags per sheet, and they're kind of perforated down the middle so you can tear the tags apart. And usually they have an image of an angel printed at the top section here. And then what we're doing is creating the text that goes on that has all of the angels' information. So these 2 angels that we selected, Dax and Sarah, these are the details for those angels. And if I then put my cardstock in my printer at my office and I print this file, as long as I have the cardstock oriented the correct way, then what will happen is you will print just the text here. People often ask, is it going to print these blue boxes? It's not. That's something that just the PDF is trying to say this is a form field. It'll print it just in black text on the white background. So it populates that angel information directly onto the tag. And of course, your tag is already pre-printed with the angel. It has the Salvation Army shield. And if you go back to your campaign admin screens, there are several different options you can choose. So you can kind of play around with it, generate a few tags and see which ones print correctly on the cardstock that you have. You could also generate these files and hand them to your printer. If you have a printing company that does your tags for you, you can definitely do that. You could say, okay, here are the dimensions. This is what the tag data looks like, and they can print those sheets onto whatever whatever they have designed and cut it and all of that. So you can still use this even if you're not actually printing them in-house on your printer. You can still use this to grab all of the angel data into the right format that you need. Again, look under your campaign admin in the general tab. There are several different tag template options, and you can select them and view the samples and even do test prints from there to see which ones will work for you. We can also do custom tags. If you have a specific kind of layout that you use and know certain corporate sponsors you want to be able to print on there, or certain custom text, we can do those things. We need about a 2-week lead time, and there is an additional cost for that. However, once we have it set up, you can use it over and over year. But typically, if you're using the tags, pretty much any tags you can get from trade, you can find a template for it here. So that's printing angel tags. Another thing I want to talk about really quickly before we go is angel allocation. So allocation is our kind of our term for corporate sponsors or sponsored adoptions, where you have a corporation or a church who want to adopt a large number of angels, and then typically they use their network to get those angels adopted, right? So they'll put an angel tree in their church lobby, and then their members will adopt the angels from there. So they're kind of doing some of the adoption work for you. So sponsored allocations, I want to make sure we talk about those. If I go under angels to angel allocations, this is where I can manage those. So the allocations, there's a couple different types. One is the online adoption, which we'll talk about, which is where donors can actually go online and adopt these angels. And then like just the general public can go online and adopt your angels. And then each adoption site is also an allocation. So I can say, okay, these 10 angels are going to go hang on the tree at the mall, at Yuma Shopping Mall. So I would allocate those angels to that mall. And what this is doing is giving me kind of this real time, easily reportable list of here are all my angels and here's where they all are and who has them. So the third type of those is what we call sponsored allocations. So I have set up here the Church of Yuma, for example. And I did that just by clicking new sponsored allocation. You can add as many of these as you need. So I can add details about who my contact is there, how to contact them, what date they're going to return their gifts, any notes about them. I can put down here the information about how many angels they want. So in this case, they want 150 angels. You can say specific demographics, like they only want, teenage boys because they have a teenage boys program or something like that. And so I'll only want boys, ages this to this. And, you can really customize that. And then you can also say, we only want angels from this particular area of the city, right? So from this distribution site, those kinds of things. But once you have them set up, then what you can do is you can assign angels to them. So there's a couple different ways to do that. I can click here on this little green icon, and when I'm doing mass allocations, like of 500, 1,000 angels at a time, which happens, that there are huge corporations that adopt huge numbers of angels. What I can do is use this tool here. I come and say, okay, pull me all of the available angels, so angels who are approved but who are not yet already allocated somewhere else. So pull me all of the available angels. You can pull them by angel number, meaning they'll kind of stay in family order. You can pull them by age or by gender or at random. So we'll say, pull me all of the available angels who fit the criteria for this allocation. In this case, there's just one, probably just the angel we just added. And if I wanted to add them to this allocation, and like I said, you can do this at thousands at a time. It could, if they require 1,000 angels and you have 1,000 angels that match the criteria, it'll pull all 1,000 angels, and you can say add to allocation, and bam, all 1,000 of them are updated to be allocated to Church of Yuma, for example. But I'm going to leave him there for now. I'm going to go back to our angel records page. And I might use my filter to say, okay, show me everybody who is in a status of admin approved. So meaning they're not allocated yet, they're still just sitting there. Okay, I have one person. I'm going to check that angel, or if I have a bunch of angels, I can use the check mark at the top to select them all at one time. And I'm going to say update allocation. And I'm going to say, okay, I want to put this angel up for adoption online, or I want to put them with the Church of Yuma, or I want to put them at the shopping mall, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and put them online. Submit, and then I'm going to remove this filter. And then you can see our angel here, Carter, is now allocated to the online allocation. So I can use the filters to run allocations. Okay, show me everybody who's allocated online. Or I can do a combination of filters, show me everybody who's allocated to online and is still just allocated, meaning they haven't been adopted yet. So here's, I know I have one angel that should still be adoptable online. That's what this kind of report is telling me. So angel allocations, that is a huge deal, especially if you deal with, if you're going to do online adoptions at all, and if you deal with corporate sponsors who adopt large numbers of angels, that's really helpful so that you can keep track of who has all your angels at any given time, and also allows you to run reports and get numbers based on those things. So that's really important. The kind of last thing, I know we're a little bit over, but if you're able to stick with us, do. If not, of course, this is all being recorded and it'll be made available to you later. But if you're able to stick around, we're almost done here. So I mentioned several times adopting online. So I just want to go over really quickly what that means for you. So if you, it's a optional thing. You don't have to do online adoptions. It's just something that's available, and it doesn't cost you any extra or nothing, anything like that. You just need to configure it and turn it on if you want to use it. So I'm going to go back under our admin. I'm going to go to campaign and this last tab here that says online. So there are two settings here. One is the site settings for the public visibility, and one is online adoption. So they're kind of two online features that the donor will see. We've already seen the online portion of what the client does. The client goes to saangeltree.org, they fill out the application, that's all great. But now we want to see, okay, what is the donor going to do? So there's kind of two sections to that, and you can choose to use one or the other or both. So I'm going to start with, and if I don't know if you saw that there are some shortcut links here under this online section to your public Angel Tree website and your public adoption page. So this is what the public Angel Tree site would look like for the Yuma core. So you see it says Yuma up there at the top. You can use these configuration settings. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. You can update all of these to be your phone number, your social media handles, you can update the captions and the photos. You can put your own YouTube link to a video that you produced. You can put information about how this works in our community in Yuma. So this is basically giving you all the tools you need to customize this website to look like it's yours and to be about the program in your area. So this is where you can send your donors. They can say, oh, what's Angel Tree? Oh, this is what they do. Cool. And again, you can update all of this text to be specific to your city. Here, this is a Google map that's showing me all of the adoption and gift drop-off locations. So you can see the Yuma shopping mall is pinned there. You can see the Yuma core is here where I can drop off my gifts. So your donors can say, oh man, where can I go to drop off a gift? They can see the address, get directions, and they can see the schedule of when you're open. Of course, that's all something we set up under campaign admin. So they can come here and read about it, but what you really want them to do is come here and adopt an angel. So there's a link at the top, says adopt an angel, or down here at the bottom, big button, adopt an angel. And that's going to take them to this next step, which is the angel adoption. If you already have a super duper Christmas related website that you use and you don't kind of want to use this kind of public Angel Tree site that you get with this program, that's fine. These are two separate links. If you look back here in your online campaign admin, you see how there are two different links. So you can turn the public one, you can turn this one off, but leave your adoption on, and you can have donors go directly here to the adoption. They don't have to go to that first screen, but it is helpful if you don't have a really well established Christmas kind of centered website. And it's a free, comes with it. So you might as well. So here they can choose what type of angel they're looking for, boys or girls. And of course, we only have one angel that's available online. We already know that. But we'll say all angels. But they could choose an age range from whatever age ranges you have available. And then depending on which angels are allocated to your online allocation, and depending on that selection that they made, it pulls a random list from that group of angels that are available. Of course, we know there's only one. Poor little Carter. We're going to go ahead and adopt him. So I'm going to check which angel or angels I want to adopt. I'll say continue, and then it's going to want me to give some information about the donor. So this is great because now I'm collecting information um, on this donor, and we're going to be able to use that, right? We're going to have that donor information, and not only is it helpful in tying this applicant to this angel, so that if we need to look it up for any reason later, we know which angel, or excuse me, which donor adopted which angel, and so on and so on. But even more than that, we have his information that we can use later in the year when we're, appealing for money to send kids to camp, that kind of thing. So that donor data is pretty valuable to you. So we're collecting that all up front, so we know exactly who has which angel at all times. And then the last thing it's going to ask me for here is, okay, you're adopting this angel, but which location, which drop-off location from the drop-off locations we configured in our campaign, which one do you want to drop your gift off at? So he'll choose that. I'll click submit. And then this is his confirmation screen. So saying, okay, thanks for adopting this person or this angel. We will also send this via email. So this will go to that email address. It will say, it kind of serves as the thank you for adopting, and also has a link to where they can come back and get this information about this angel in case they misplace it, or, in case, surely he doesn't want to print it. If he's on his phone, he can't print it from here. That email is kind of his link back to his angel. So there you see his angel. If he adopted more than one, they'd all be listed here. And it shows all of the information we have about him. He's 17 months, and this is what he wants, and these are his clothing sizes, so he can actually go shop for him. And then here's the drop-off location that you chose, but then here are other additional ones and the schedule. So this is why those drop-off schedules are important. This is the schedule where you can drop things off at those locations. So again, he has all of this in an email as well, and can go shopping and drop off these gifts. If I come back here to the TSAM side, go back under my angel records, you can see that immediately Carter has updated to a status of adopted. So immediately the stats are updated. We know he's been adopted, and we know by who. And Mr. Sanchez, and I can click here and go get more information about him if I needed to. So that's super helpful. If I come back to my home screen, you can see this dashboard is updating all the time, showing me how many I have adopted, how many I have allocated, and so on.